Let's cross to Adelaide and catch up with 5AA breakfast host and News Corp columnist David Penberthy. Good to talk to you again, Penbo.
You too, Chris.
Hey, one of the strange reasons that the former Liberal government there, the Stephen Marshall government, got booted was because they scrapped the V8s from Adelaide's street circuit. They thought that nobody really needed this car race. They wanted some light shows and art shows instead. But it's fantastic news today that the Labor government, which promised to bring it back, has signed it up. It'll now be the last race every V8 supercar season, and the streets will be closed now and then for a good event.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this is something to put it in New South Wales Rugby League parlance. This became a bit of a Fibros versus Silvertails battle here in Adelaide. Clearly, Adelaide has got a national reputation as being a bit of an arts hub, but it's also a motor city. I mean, this was the home of Chrysler, their Mitsubishi. It was the home of Holden for a very long time. And for every person getting around in a beret in SA who's a huge fan of the Fringe and the festival, there's plenty of people, particularly in the outer suburbs, who still get around in Holden jackets and love seeing the V8s fanging around town. Now, for years, the road closures, and they're really at their absolute worst for about a fortnight, but there's an on-again, off-again disruption on the sort of more affluent eastern side of town that drives a lot of residents there mad. And I can sympathise up to a point with some of their complaints. The issue is, though, that any major, medium-sized city that's going to put on events, they bring with it a disruption. And there's a lot of people here who, I mean, there's an arts festival on at the moment called Illuminate that has resulted in the closure of a major road into town for 3 months, and none of the art set seem to be up in arms about that.
the same arty-farty types who whinge about the car racing don't mind the roads being shut down for an Illuminate festival. It is unreal. Look, I love the street circuit. Let's just have a look. Here's the start of the last race to go around the Adelaide streets.
Let's get this party started. A brand new decade of supercar action begins right here in Adelaide. Great hole shot, Jamie Whincup. Whincup grabs second gear and prevails on the run to turn one. Reynolds on the outside, position 2.
Mate, I'm not even in a petrol head, and I love it. And my 8-year-old's going to be demanding we head back to Adelaide for the next event. And I think Mark Scaife was in town today talking about the event. Here he is.
If you lead here after 78 laps of what is the Adelaide 500 and you come over the finish line and you're lucky enough to be first, the place goes absolutely crazy. And you can hear everything above the car noise. And that atmosphere, you can't replicate it.
And the other thing, Pembo, is it's a big national sporting event that helps Adelaide stay on that national map. So I think Malinauskas obviously is going to be on a winner here for saving the day.
Look, for the life of me, I couldn't understand why Stephen Marshall got rid of it. I thought that the logic that was used by the Tourism Commission in recommending that it be scrapped and his bizarre decision as Premier to acquiesce to that, I think he got to by his own constituents in the leafy inner east. The reality is that the last time it was held, and this is against a backdrop of what its critics said was decline, it still generated millions and millions of dollars for the South Australian economy. I think the figure was something like $55 million. Hospitality depends on it. Hotels depend on it. Part of the problem was that the patronage fell off because it was being held at the peak of summer. I mean, you're an Adelaide boy. You know how we get these 43-degree days. There were a couple of days like that when it was held. Standing trackside's the last place you want to be when there's a hot northerly blowing down from Alice Springs towards Adelaide. Holding it in December makes a lot more sense. And frankly, I think when you look at the number of arts events, I mean, thinking about things like opera and ballet, they would fall over tomorrow without the assistance of the taxpayer. The minimal amount of public money that props this up, set against its vast returns to the hospitality sector, there was never an argument for getting rid of it. And I think that Malinauskas, particularly for his constituency, because it didn't cost him a seat in the eastern side of town, he totally pulled the right rein on this one.
He sure did. Hey, tell me, just out of interest, can you stand on one leg for 10 seconds?
Well, no, but apparently I need to learn how to try because it's the key to a long and happy life, apparently, isn't it?
It is. Sydney University researchers have decided if you're over 50, might not be over 50, but you've got to be able to stand on one leg for 10 seconds. If you can't do that, life's coming at you fast. So I've got to practice now. We've got to practice standing on one leg.
It reminds me a bit of there was that nickname Keating got, Captain Wacky, when he became obsessed in his 50s with the idea of jumping up and down on a trampoline, because there was a theory that when all your cells were motionless at that moment before you started to come back down again, it did you a world of good. So who knows, maybe there is something in it, mate.
There may well be. Steel cut oats and standing on one leg. Thanks for joining us, Pembo. Appreciate it. David Penberthy there. You can hear him on Radio 5AA Breakfast in Adelaide. Read him in the News Corp papers, including The Australian. But that's the word, apparently. Those of us who are over 50, you want to test your general well-being. If you can stand up on one leg for 10 seconds, you're doing all right. If you can't do that on either leg, apparently things might not be going too well for you. Now, see a doctor. This is not my medical advice. I'm just sharing with you some of the news.